Morning. Was up for a while now, and I thought about something. And it's sort of the terrible end to things. When you are young, time passes differently than when you're old. As you age, especially past the late 20s, the year goes very fast. For young people, time doesn't pass as quickly. Some years seem to take forever. Do you remember some age that wasn't pleasant? A teacher who you didn't particularly like? Summer that seems to go quickly, does it not? Christmas comes and goes. Time flies when you're having fun. Well, shall we apply this to Northern Europe? There are a lot of young people, and the idea is, by the mainstream media, that what you are seeing, this has to be sold in this way, is something very similar to 90s America or the earliest 2000s, maybe Britain, where the club scene was hot, dance floor was hot, and people who had never hung out together, there was like a new style of music, new styles of dress, and all was diverse. New drugs, lots of drugs. That's a big part of what's going on with the refugee thing, the compliance, the compliance of Europeans. A lot of it comes from being soaked in drugs and drink. And Europe's going to have to deal with that. That specifically. I rarely hear many of the European nationalists really discuss the prevalence of drugs and drink in certain communities. Like they don't really identify. They don't seem to have quite the same easy ways of identifying people who are just like normal people in a country, like a normal Belgian, compared to like some lefty Belgian who keeps denying that things are getting out of hand. But maybe I just need to listen closer. Maybe they do. There is more descriptors than I'm used to. But definitely certain cultural degradation is sometimes addressed, but not much. And I think it's because Europeans in general just have they don't have the history of prohibition quite that America does, and the staunch Protestant prohibition that America does. What will be remembered, lasting forever, are these girls who are afraid to walk the streets, like these 12 and 13-year-old girls, that they're hearing that the immigrant boys will rape them. It's not that they're not hearing this. People who think kids aren't telling each other this stuff, you got to be crazy. The immigrant boys, we're seeing now, the videos coming out where they just beat kids up. And then there's the ones who've been there for a generation. For all of these liberal types who we get to see on YouTube discussing how they have these Muslim mates and they have these friends who are Muslim and blah, blah, blah. Something really needs to be understood clearly. There are men like me in every nation that if something is happening that we have to stop because that makes us fundamentally just a decent human being, that you stop it. But if somebody's saying, "Oh, this is happening," and if and they won't identify, like, "Oh, so that thing you voted for is biting you in the ass. You don't like it. Well, should have voted differently." That's how that goes. You're going to have to prepare. You're going to have to prepare for that, aren't you? Because most men understand that when we fall and fall hard, everyone laughs. When a woman falls and falls hard, people go, "Ooh," because that's not funny. And that's just how it is. And so a whole lot of us are like, "Nope, you do what you need to do, hun. You know, life's hard." It's a big part of what got Trump elected. It was a whole lot of men being like, we really don't care what you say anymore. We just simply have no interest in anything any of you say anymore. You've betrayed us for a whole generation now. We're done. Nope. We're not voting for anyone you like, because every time we do stuff you like, we get nothing back. So fuck you. We're going to do exactly what you don't like. Well, now what's happened in Europe is there's a generation of young women and boys. Actually, remember they rape boys a lot too. The crimes are being covered up, and these kids will remember. And then there will be the ones that have heard about this and the stories. You all have no idea the monsters you're going to have if you all don't deal with this in Europe. If you don't deal with this fast. Thousands in Britain. Those women at some point will have children. Let me make this crystal clear. The Cabo will be glass. You keep fucking up like this. If you want to really see a horrible future, just keep acting like the immigrant invasion, the Muslim invasion of Europe is cool. Keep acting like it's all good. You keep betraying these children. When the time comes, you kids, you remember, I told your parents, I told them, I told people in your country, lots of us said, don't, no, this is a horrible idea. And now we have solid information about how these children are being beaten up, verbally assaulted, that it's just normal behavior for Turks and Iraqis and Syrians and Kuwaitis to just abuse the white kids. Organized rape gangs and prostitution rings unique to the Muslim community. This is not just a disaster. There's going to be a generation of men who they'll have you ever been told by a lady of a small injustice done to her? Someone you really care for? What goes through your body? That visceral feeling. You want to be maddened. You're going to go neck to neck with somebody. You're going to tell them, you're going to apologize to her. If it takes you beating his jaw into powder, he's going to say sorry. If Europe keeps this going, the Kaaba will be glass in less than 10, 20 years. It will be over. The Ummah will it'll be horrible. But people aren't really understanding. It will be the solution to 1,000 years of problems. You must set yourself at a distance from things. Would this not be logical? Would not all enemies finally fear those who should be feared? You just wipe out almost everything that lives on the Arabian Peninsula. And the rest of the Ummah, they'll do what you want for the rest of time. You can make them walk in file out of Europe if they know you will leave the Kaaba a parking lot. All it's going to take is at some point a 14-year-old girl somewhere in Austria to figure that out. And when she's 25 and running for office on that platform, and people go, who is this girl? And they look back and they find that article about her brutal gang rape by immigrants. Then none of you will say shit. You will hang your head and you will know it is coming, and that eventually you'll get yours too for turning your back on her when she was a child. There is no wrath, nothing imaginable than what a people will do for their women. You women remember that, always. You think that Trump was just so the guys could grab your vaginas. You silly, silly trollops. This is for our friends' daughters. We see what's coming. You all who are on the left, you liberals, you progressives, you believe the politicians too much. Belief will not help these children. They'll have memories, clear memories of everybody making excuses. It will be like the 90s in a sense. What do you think the whole Trump thing was? You think none of those people grew up in diversity? Silly, silly people. Your view of time is short. Do the right thing now, before the future is snatched out of all your imagination.